Hello and welcome to another BuildASoil YouTube video. Today we've got our battle tents side by side. Today's episode 8 and we're on day 28 of flower. It's been not quite 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, a little less, I think 1 day less than 2 weeks since the last video, so a lot has changed. We were pretty much not finishing stretch. I know that GMO goes about 3 weeks, but now that we're at 4 weeks, it's totally stopped and we have to address that. And so I've already put a third layer of trellis on this side, and I wanna follow up with a third layer of trellis on this side right now so I can show you how I did it. We may have to speed it up because it's kind of a pain in the butt, but I at least wanna show you what I'm doing in case you overgrow your tent and you're stuck with a predicament like this. Then I wanna grab my PPFD, my par meter, and I wanna run it through and give you a comparison on the grow lights for how the evenness of this one is versus the other. And then we want to talk about the environment, because being at day 28, that means that we're going to start transitioning the environment a little bit into the next phase, since we're basically out of the stretch phase and now we're in the full bloom phase. And so we're going to discuss that. Let's get started. Let me show you both tents. So first, let's open this one. Oh yeah. So last time we were here. We got that next foot of growth over that next week and a half, and then stretch basically stopped at 3 weeks and then gradually creeped barely from 3 weeks to today. And so now we're starting to see formation of flowers. It's just beautiful in here. And there's a couple things we need to address. There's a lot of plant material with a very small volume of soil in here. And so one of the key tenets of doing this natural style is that we need to sync the energy and the speed of everything we're doing against our limiting factor. The limiting factor in this grow is not the grow light. We could make this thing run, but it's gonna be the soil volume. And since we're really pushing the boundaries of how much we can do with that volume, we're probably gonna need to dim the light a little bit and make sure that we're keeping the mulch layer moist and even consider feeding, because we've really produced a lot for what's under there. I wanna show you the mulch layer because it's got a lot of feeder roots on it, and that's gonna be a little bit predictive of how much food they're going through and how fast. But see how there's some back there that's growing into the light? That back one's too close. The other ones, believe it or not, they're pretty freaking good with how even this Grandmaster Tent Ultimate light is. Even at this point, when I get the par meter, you'll see that it's very, very gentle, and it's got a nice range here that's acceptable as far as PPFD, but this one's getting too close and that one is. And so when I put the third layer of trellis up here, it's gonna allow me to move these just a couple of inches over in different directions without really bending them, and that's gonna lower a couple of them away. Let me show you what I've done. Before I show you the other tent, I wanna show you some feeder roots. So let's take a peek under here and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, it's happening. Look at that. That was not like that recently. I saw that just moves. There must be a worm over here. But I didn't really expect to see that when I opened it just now. We're gonna have to top dress even more in here. We're max mounded. So you can see big mound here, but see on the sides, I'm walled up. And so to keep it moist, it kind of dribbles over the edge. So to mound, I'm gonna have to go for the center and just keep stacking to give it additional food, but that's what happens when you're really pushing the boundaries. That's rad. We put some holy cow in here last time. We've put some biofos in there. We're just trying to keep it microbially active to keep the nutrients in flow, as we don't want the speed of the nutrient delivery to be slowed down based on the speed of the growth, because it's so packed in here. Let's look at this side. Oh wow, it's cool. It's doing something similar. This one looks like it has a little bit more top dress. You know, it's not perfectly, it's not like we weighed it out exact. And so it's piling through there, doing something similar. And again, we've used, the Build-A-Flower and the Cocoa and some craft blend. Wow, okay, come over here, let's take a look. So once the color focuses, you'll see, as I mentioned, I've already put the third layer of trellis on here. And so you can see how I've bent some of them away from the light, so now we're not quite hitting it. These were getting a little bit taller. I did have to bend 1 or 2 of them back there, and that's fine because they can kind of rest on the trellis net. And so as these move a little bit, I can still move them. This one's in between the 2 strips. I think it's probably fine, but I can move it even more if I need to, now that it's had a few minutes to kind of stretch against it. You can see that one was way too tall. It's kind of bent at an angle over there. So that's what we're gonna do on this other side today. Otherwise, both tents look really, really good right now. I'm very happy with where we're at, the color of everything. Let's take a look down here in the root zone, see what we're looking at. Oh yeah, it's happening over here. That is so cool. Love these earth boxes so much. I don't care if you're beginner or advanced. They just are powerhouses. And I've fit 4 in a 4x4 by putting them in a donut configuration, so you can go a little harder in here as far as increasing the horsepower underneath the canopy. And that'll allow you to keep your light at full speed and keep the whole thing cranking, kind of max out your yield. Where right now we're really pushing the boundaries. So this one, not quite as much. I'm gonna make sure it's moist. It looks slightly drier. Now that doesn't mean that that's not eating the food as much. It just means that with the moisture being slightly drier, they've been air pruning here versus just growing underneath the plastic on the other one where it was more visually impressive. So we'll make sure this stays nice and moist. Otherwise they all have water down there still, so there's no need to water today. The stalks on here, I think if you've seen our Instagram, I've shown some photos, but I mean, they are massive. It is a really big like tree trunk stalk on all the plants in these earth boxes. So pretty cool. I want to discuss a few things before we get to the trellis net, because that's going to take some of my focus. So let's do that. Environmental protocol, you can just print this out at buildasoil.com under the education tab. And so reading on here, now that we're past the bloom stretch period, weeks 1 through 4, we're now at full bloom, weeks 5 through 8. And so we want to shift our light on hours from 12 down to 11. Now, that's typical for a 5 to 8, like an 8-weeker. You could wait to turn your lights down, but seeing how close they are, that's one way that I can lower the peak DLI where it's really hitting hard. And so I think what I'm gonna do is match this exactly, and I'm gonna go to 11 hours of light and 13 hours of darkness. When I go into my app, I'm gonna do that in a moment. And then the other thing I'm gonna do is check that we're in the PPFD range of 700 to 1,000 on here, and I've got my par meter, which I'll use. And then the other thing I want to look at is temps. So in the day, 75 leaf surface temperature would be good. And so I believe 71.6. So we're doing pretty well. It's a little bit cool. 72.8, just kind of depends exactly where you're at. 74. So we're getting close to our desired leaf surface temperature, so that's fine. What isn't is I'm gonna go from 65% desired humidity, which we're at 60% right now with the tent door open, and we're gonna drop to 50% now so that we don't get any mold. And that's gonna change this VPD number up to 1.5 is gonna be the new target that I'm gonna use to target my AC Infinity. And so I'm gonna be using VPD as the target at 1.5 according to this. That way, and I'll put like a 0.2 buffer, and that'll allow it to just target that with my exhaust. And while it's exhausting, this will really help because I can move this up a bit right now, and they're so easy to move this particular style. That's why we like them. It also provides a couple inches extra space here. And so these fit on a number of grow tents, including the AC Infinity. And we offer these at BuildASoil. I'm just gonna raise it up a little bit here so that now I'm protecting when the fan's running to get to that lower humidity. I'm able to block the tent from really compressing on these, which it would be doing without that. It really does dramatically bring the tent walls in. And then when we're putting that final level of trellis on, I can access this one here and I can move it. So I'll try and remember to do that when we're putting the trellis net on. Other things you can do is you can kind of take your fans down while you do this stuff. I'm just probably gonna try and work around it. At home, I've got a 5x5 and it's kind of really hard to get to the back of one corner. And so I've actually cut my zip ties before on one area, stepped in, put another layer on, moved back, and then put a new zip tie back on to create it where I could get my body in there like 1 or 2 feet further versus my lower net. So sometimes when you don't have full access to your tent, you have to get a little bit creative. I don't have complete access, but since we just took the humidifiers out, I have a little more access through the middle and through the side. So I should be able to help me put that trellis net in. I didn't want to forget to mention that too. We did pull the humidifier out because with this much plant mass, it was just not going through any water. It wasn't really running unless I opened the tent door. That'll help to keep it where it's not getting all moist down there. And we do have our fans down there that are part of the 4x4 kit. They're the Vivo Sun fans that are pointed down, just moving air below the canopy. Well, we've got these here now pointed up towards the light because we've maxed out this grow. And what you don't want to do is have a fan that you forgot about pointed down right at one plant and wind burning it. And so it may be, a little close to some of them, but I've got this set on the natural wind setting, so it's speeding up and slowing down. It's not just a consistent high speed. and I think that helps as well. Again, I mentioned that we may need to address top dressing, and so I'll consider that in the next day or two, and I'll mention it or I'll show it on camera, depending on how much time I have, but it's critical for you to address that weakest link in your grow. And you need to sync the speed. A lot of newer growers fail with this. They have many different size containers. Sometimes they're watering 3 or 4 days apart, and so they'll have times where the plants are very moist and times where the plants are very dry, and it goes on for days like that. They'll have the light on a high setting and they may not be monitoring temperature, and so the weakest link might be that they have a humidity and too bright of a light, and their weakest link might be the container and moisture, and so they might actually have to dim their light greatly to get plant health. And then they might be asking on the forums like, what's wrong with my plant, and showing a leaf, and then looking up a leaf chart and then trying to feed it calcium or something, where what it really needed is just bigger shoes, right? More soil, or to dim the light, or to match that speed somehow. And so in here, I'm a little bit at risk of pushing them too hard right now, because that's like a bag and a half of soil each, like 10 gallons of soil, and this is stacked 16 square feet. So we've got like 8 more weeks to go. So I've got to make sure we're going along. Let's take a look and see where are we on PPFD. And then we're gonna do the trellis net. So this one's a little easier for me to show you on camera. You don't need to spend money like this though. Our kit comes with one for your phone, and you can just slide in there and take pictures, screenshots in different spots, and then take a peek. It works fine, but this is easier for me when I'm filming, and so I'm gonna keep using this. Just gonna read the numbers, it's a little bit easier. And so coming in here, like in these lower areas, I'm at 800 or so right here, that you can see, depending on the angle. Now, I'm just gonna read it as I kind of guide through, so let's go by this one. So we're at 980. This one we're at 850 because we're between the 2 bars. And so all of them that are too tall are kind of between. That's 1100 right there. So that's a little bit too potent. Right there's 1300, that's too much. This one is gonna be being blasted 2000 or something. That's gonna get burned any minute if I don't move it. So I can tell I do need to put that 3rd layer of trellis on. And if I didn't wanna do that, I could reach back and just start pinching some of these tall ones and bending them over. It may not be that appealing to the eyes, but you'll still stack buds, it'll still try and stand back up, and it'll get away from your light. The other thing is you don't want these to grow into the light. I don't think there's much fire concern with these LEDs, but back in the day, man, if you had a plant growing into the light, it could cause a fire, it could cause a problem. So you really had to make sure that you would deal with it, and I want you to treat it the same here. The cool thing is when I go through at this level, and I just go all the way through, it's like 1,000, 900, 1,000, 1,000, like it's just so even all the way through everywhere that I go in here, that while I was letting this side stack, I was thinking, man, I'm getting close, but it's still in such a nice range. I'm within my 700 to 1,000 on almost everywhere in there. It's like this light is allowing me to max out the tent by giving me that full range, even when I grow a little bit too close to the light, and I'm very pleased with that. Let me show you over here. Now here's the thing. What I like and what the plants like are kind of 2 different things, so it really doesn't matter, but ultimately over the next 8 weeks, I believe that having it even is gonna help, because in here, although it looks great, they're getting fat nugs in here, it's looking very, very good, there's more hot pockets in here. So through the middle, it's like 1900 right here. Right here is like 900 because I'm not between them. If I go right there, we're at 1500, 1400 right here. If I go to that back corner, we're at 700. So it's more about these hot spots here. And so I kind of dropped this center zone where it was 1500, even here was too much. And so then I can go over like to this side, right next to that nug, and we're at 1600. So I still need to lower these just a little bit or get them off center of that light. I'm trying not to look directly at it. So right under the bar, I needed to maybe move it over a square or pinch it and deal with it, because there's some hot pockets in here based on where the nugs are and the evenness of the light and the height. The other thing is I might be able to ratchet that up just barely. And so I could always try and take out a little bit of space. They're pretty freaking even, and that's really what I was going for. But like when this happens, you can actually take the rope ratchets out and you can literally zip tie the light to the top and get you a little bit more space as kind of a trick, but it's kind of a pain. And so I'm probably gonna focus more on just using this trellis net. That way these nugs that are in this range still get great amount of light and keep everything kind of dropped down a little bit. So that's what I'll be working on this side. But at least we're out of the danger zone, because some of those were like into the light over here and it was a problem. And now it's happening here, and so I've got to get it done. I think we covered everything I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna grab a sip of water and then come back here and I'm gonna get this trellis net put up so we can wrap up this episode. All right, well, it's time to do it. And while I'm working in here, I'm gonna protect my eyes just a little bit. And so I think what I will do is go to the ACI app. I'm gonna go in here and go to the cycle mode. I'm changing it by an hour. You can do whatever you want here. You can do an hour up front, hour at the end, half hour on both sides. So now it's gonna start at 6:30 a.m. and then end at 5:30 p.m. So that's now 11 hours, okay? And then VPD, I'm gonna go change right now. And so the way I have it is high is off, low is targeted at what I wanna target. And then I've got a max level fan speed at 2, so I don't really put pressure on those side poles as it's a small tent, and 0.2 kPa, and I'll monitor this and see if it's working. I may go increase my max level if it's not, but I suspect this will work. I'm gonna hit done. That's gonna edit my entire plan, just like I talked about. The next thing that I'm gonna do just for my eyes right now is I'm gonna go to the light and I'm gonna go down here where it's set on max level 8, and I'm just gonna turn it to 1 right now. That way I get feedback through the adapter, through that telephone cord. It's now dimming it to a 1, a lot more gentle on my eyes while we're in here. I hope you can still see on camera. But wow, that looks really good. I can see him now. All right, not getting too funky yet, but it's gonna start to stink in here pretty soon with all this GMO. I can open up this side tent. All right, looks pretty good, even back here. Cool, so I should be able to get pretty good access. My concern is this power strip here. I'll probably clip it here, but I might want to go a little lower, in which case I might come under. I think it'll be fine. I can just kind of strap right here and it'll be fine. I'll get the other corners lower. There's not much I need to manage here in this corner, so that should be fine. But I guess I'll just get started. So when you get your kit, you'll get a couple of these, and that way you can put your different layers of trellis. Normally 2 is plenty. 3 I've just very rarely done, especially in a 4x4, so don't do like we do. I would much rather have this whole canopy be just a little bit lower based on our overshooting that veg time. All right, pretty easy to open. That's why we like this kind instead of these. Like if you're getting a short piece, it's hard, unless you get them from a company that has them all folded right. We've seen some really bad ones before and they can really frustrate you. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some zip ties and then I'm gonna connect it to one side, to the other, probably to this side, and then I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna work it back up and over and connect, and then drop it down so that I can start moving the plants in the squares. I don't have to get this dropped down too low because even if it's at a slight angle, that back one will be easy to move a couple squares over, and just that movement will kind of lower it. Your kit comes with these. If not, you know, there's many ways. The AC Infinity stuff comes with Velcro ties. It's kind of hard from far away. These are a little bit faster to implement, and so I'm just gonna use these. All right, bear with me here. This is gonna be a pain, but I'll get it done. Well, that's easy. I'm just gonna go under the power strip. Doesn't matter if the power strip's there or not, and I can come back and cut this off in a little bit, but I'm just gonna guide this right now and see if I can find the end easily without pulling on the plants too much. Okay, that looks pretty simple. I think what I'll do is I'll put it just at this fan level. Let me see where I did it. Yeah, just under the fan in the other tent, and it'll kind of bow over like that, so that should be good to go. It's easy in the beginning. It gets weird when you have to get the plant through there, so. Now I'm gonna try and fish it over here without hurting the plants too much. Okay, now normally I can take a whole square off because the 4x4 is 4x4, but I want it a little bit tight. So I'm gonna go to here probably. We'll see how easy that is. Yeah, I'm gonna go to there. That'll make it a little bit tighter. All right. Right now I'm not doing much. I'm just trying to make sure it's not hurting the plant. Now when I go to that back corner, I'm gonna have to pull that direction. It's gonna be hard to reach over here. So I'm gonna start moving the screen that way over these nugs so I don't rip them. Okay, then I'll kind of rest it on the nug so it doesn't pull back. Now I can go to that corner and see what I'm working with here. All right. This is awesome. It's a freaking jungle back here, and all the nugs look good, even in the corner, because of these high CFM poles. It's not pulling in on everything, and it just looks really good. Okay, let's keep this coming. It looks pretty good so far. I think the hard part is almost done. All right, now because I pulled that last square, it's pretty tight over here, but what I did is I brought 2 zip ties with me so that I can make an extension, and it is what it is. I could probably go straight for it, but it's gonna be hard with the zip tie. So I'm gonna make a loop, and I'm gonna connect to the loop I built to the pole. All right, we're in. Okay, I really kinked this tall one anyways, so kind of is what it is. I'm gonna see if that recovers, but I guess problem fixed, right, for now. The rest I'll try and pull down just a little by moving them over in the squares. Can crisscross them like that. All right, let's see. This one should go in the middle of the canopy more. That should keep it much further down. This one can go backwards easily. That should help keep it shorter. Awesome. That one's kind of between 2 light bars, so I think it's okay, but I'll move it that way just a little bit. Still think that one's a little bit close. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right, well, that's looking better. I think I gave you the general idea of what we're trying to accomplish and how to do it. What I'm gonna do over the next couple of days is just monitor these and start to move them if they get closer, and we should be pretty good. I was happy with the light setting where it was at, just not with the ones that were getting too close. It seems like this distance is about 1,000 PPFD all the way across the board, and I wanna push them. Either I'm gonna have to, when I'm dropped to 11 hours a day, that'll give me a little relief. But down there, I'm either gonna have to start to feed, or I'm gonna probably drop this another percentage point, you know, down to a number 7. But right now it's on number 8 on the 1 to 10 scale with AC Infinity. Well, right now it's on 1. Let me make sure I do that immediately. God, that is so sticky. I can, like, it's getting there. That's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go to the light and I'm gonna turn it back on. Before I forget or mess anything up, I'm gonna go to the cypress side. I'm gonna put those same settings in. It's gonna take me just a second here, 6:30. Everything's matching. Okay, happy with that. I think we covered everything I need to cover. We talked about the energy, how to match it. Showed you those feeder roots. We did a run through on PPFD. We got the layer of trellis on. I think we've recovered pretty well from what was happening there as far as overgrowing, but we're not through the woods yet. That's a lot of nug that can stack over the next 8 weeks. We're gonna have to keep up, so I'm just gonna zip these up. That was bright. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. We are age restricted, and so it really does help when we have more people follow us. Otherwise, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you on the next BuildASoil video.